Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. We're going to have some fun today with minutia, what William F. Buckley refers to as minutia, meaning trivial, of low value or unimportantness. Except that's not the definition of minutia. Definition of minutia is small, precise details, what I refer to as material information. It could mean triviality. It could mean of low value or unimportance. It could mean that. But it could also mean precise, concise, material facts. And that's the definition we're going to pursue. Now, I realize that whether it's trivial or whether it's material, most people cannot handle details, and their eyes glaze over and their brain goes numb. But since none of those people subscribe to my channel, it matters not for my audience, my viewing audience, who's starving for the truth. So we're going to do that, and we're going to address Bel Air and the Bel Air district of Los Angeles and Bel Air Road specifically, which is on a ridgeline to the west of the Sharon Tate-Abigail Folger murder scene, which we know is a military NATO complex of CIA Hollywood in Beverly Hills, 90210 zip code, but just below the Enchanted Hillside, owned by the Paul Allen Land Trust. All right, so we're going to examine three houses, one of which is a lot. It was torn down. The Art Linkletter home was demolished, and they have not replaced it with a new custom home yet. So we're going to look at three properties. We're going to look at 1100 Bel Air Road, which was the Art Linkletter home, which was constructed in 1957. It was a 4-bedroom, 5-bathroom home, one level, that Art Linkletter lived in 1957. After he died, his children, the ones that were still alive. He had 5 children, 2 were murdered, and I think there were only 3 children left when he died. And they sold the house intact for $10.5 million. And we're going to look at that home, 1100 Bel Air Road. Across the street from there was where Zsa Zsa Gabor lived. She was a Hungarian Jewish lady who married Conrad Hilton of the Hilton Hotels for a short while. As you know, she was divorced, I think, 7 times. And above, very close from the Art Linkletter house, there's a little cul-de-sac, a dead end, called Bel Air Drive off Bel Air Road. And there was a rental house there where Julio Iglesias lived. Remember, there was a little joke about Julio Iglesias in the film The Firm with Tom Cruise and Gary Busey, who played the gumshoe detective who called himself Julio Iglesias just before he was murdered. Anyway, Julio Iglesias was assigned as a tenant the home walking distance to the Art Linkletter home. When he moved out, it was the producer for the Jackson 5 that moved in, Berry Gordy. Berry Gordy moved in near Art Linkletter's house. Anyway, if we move down the hill, it's a steep hillside ridgeline, and all the homes on that ridgeline all look over to the crime scene of Cielo Drive. I've chosen it because of that. That's the focal point, is the Cielo Drive crime scene. I do realize that there's a east side ridgeline known as Summit Ridge Drive, but we're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on Bel Air Road to the west. And the second home we're going to focus on is address number 924 Bel Air Road. It's a modern contemporary monstrosity house. Again, it's at 924 Bel Air Road. And we're going to discuss that. And then we go down the hill another 0.3 of a mile, and you're at the Beverly Hillbillies, the Clampett mansion, which goes by the name of Chartwell. It's known as the Chartwell Mansion at 750 Bel Air Road. We're going to examine that. That's where Rupert Murdoch's son, Lachlan Murdoch, and his lovely wife, Sarah O'Brien, Sarah O'Hare live at 750 Bel Air. They recently purchased that property for $150 million on December 13th, 2019. So they've only lived there for approximately 2 years. It's the Clampett family mansion. We're going to look at that. And then, of course, we're going to re-examine the murder scene over at Cielo Drive, Sunbrook, Bella. All right, so let's get moving. So the Art Linklater home came online in 1957, which was the time that the homes on the perimeter of the murder scene in Benedict Canyon were being built 1952 to 1955. And I'd say Sunbrook Drive was created by 1955, 56. And then the Art Linklater house was finished the next year on Bel Air Road. It was a one level. It was 5 bedrooms. No, scratch it. It was 4 bedrooms and it was 5 bathrooms. It was one level and it looked right down on the swimming pool of where Abigail Folger was bayoneted to death by NATO soldiers on August 9th, 1969. And that was just 3 weeks after Art Linklater's son-in-law was murdered with a .38 caliber pistol at age 33. I said age 33. Masonic evil eye, age 33. John Zweier was shot in the back of the head in West Hollywood, and he was the son-in-law married to Art Linklater's eldest daughter. And he was murdered in July 15th, 1969. So about 3 weeks before Sharon Tate was murdered, who Art Linklater knew Sharon Tate. He also knew Tom Coomer, a.k.a. CIA J. Sebring. He knew him also. Part of the CBS television family, which Art Linklater, spent 25 years nurturing that family. And Art Linklater's number one CBS television star. Art Linklater, number one. It's not a close race. Anyway, he knew Sharon Tate and he knew Tom Coomer, J. Sebring. And he knew his son-in-law, John Zweier, who was killed. And then 3 weeks later, 2 more people that he knew were bayoneted to death. Sharon Tate and Tom Coomer. So that's 3 people that Art Linklater knew who were killed within 1,000 meters of his house. Well, John Zweier was killed, in West Hollywood, approximately 6.5 miles away from, as the crow flies. As the car drives, probably 8.5 miles from Art Linklater's house, 8.5 mile drive to get to John Zweier and his daughter's house. 4 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, and when he died at age 90. He was like 95-ish, something like that. His 3 remaining children sold the house for $10.5 million. Remember, Art Linklater had 2 children murdered. Diane Linklater, age 20, thrown out of the 6th floor of her Shoreham Towers onto the sidewalk of North Horn Avenue across the street from the CIA apartment building at 1211 North Horn. All CIA people lived in that building, including Edward Durston, who was in Art Linklater's daughter's kitchen, baking cookies with her on a Saturday morning, October 4th, 1969. That's 2 months after Sharon Tate's murder. So you see, Art Linklater had his son-in-law murdered, Sharon Tate murdered, J. Sebring murdered, he knew all those. Then he had his daughter Diane murdered, all within 2.5 months. 4 people Art Linklater knew. And it's quite disturbing. It's quite disturbing. All right? And two of the 4 people were killed, within 1,000 meters of his backyard swimming pool. That's Sharon Tate and Tom Coomer. Then a couple years later, Art Linkletter's son Robert was killed in a head-on car crash on Santa Monica Boulevard by a woman who went over the center line, went out of her way to crash in, collide with his son, who was killed, and she was not charged with manslaughter, which is peculiar because she went over the center line, and it's almost like a deliberate thing, right? So anyway, like Paul Pelosi got lucky on May 28, 2022, because he took out Jesus Lopez and totaled his Jeep and took out the fence of the Rothschilds owned Opus One winery vineyard at Oakville Cross and Highway 29, State Highway 29, but nobody died. So all Paul Pelosi had to worry about was his DUI felony, which was reduced to a misdemeanor. So there's no manslaughter charges involved with Paul Pelosi. And there was no manslaughter charges involved with Paul Pelosi at age 16 when he flipped over his sports car at Highway 35 near the Crystal Springs Reservoir, killing his older brother David. Now, in that case, we have a manslaughter situation where Paul Pelosi is driving the car, crashes the car, killing his passenger, his brother David, and there's no manslaughter charges on that one either. So I think Paul Pelosi is kind of exempt from felonies, because that's a felony. That would be felony manslaughter. And the Jesus Lopez car wreck, that's a felony. And the styrofoam hammer attack, if that turns out that was a hoax and that was a fake 911 call to the San Francisco police, that's a false police report. That's the filing of a false police report. That's a felony. That's 3 felonies that Paul Pelosi was not charged with. All right, just saying. All right, so then we have the situation where eventually Daryl Katz, who's a Jewish man from Canada, a billionaire, he purchases the Art Linkletter property. And I don't know who tore down the house. He's recently listed the property on July 8th, 2021. Daryl Katz is trying to sell the Art Linkletter vacant lot for $38.5 million. And just so you know who Daryl Katz is, let's review very briefly. He's not any different than the owners of the Golden State Warriors. He's not any really different than Steve Ballmer, of Microsoft, who owns the LA Clippers. You have these billionaires purchasing hockey teams, baseball franchises, NBA franchises, NFL franchises, and there's a reason for that. They're required to do that because they don't control all their money. They're under the thumb of the anthropologists who run our world. So you should know that this Daryl Katz fellow had it right here. Okay, here he is. He's a kind of a mysterious character. He's 61 years old. Daryl Allen Katz. He was born May 31st, 1961, a Canadian billionaire. He's the chairman and founder of the Katz Group of companies, which include a wide potpourri pharmacy business. He bought a chain of pharmacies, Rexall drugstore chain in Canada. He got involved with Minnesota-based Snyder's drugstore chain. He's purchased United States-based Drug Emporium, big box discount drug chain. He paid money to buy a Rexall Center, which is a tennis stadium. So he built a $45 million tennis stadium. Again, that is for social engineered messaging, like Hollywood. That's what these sports franchises are for. People want to go watch steroid athletes play a violent sport where there's a lot of collisions, like hockey. He owns the Edmonton Oilers, right? For you Canadian viewers. I'm sure you get a lot of masking messaging and mandatory vax status to get in to see the hockey game, like they did at the Chase Center for the Golden State Warriors. Anyway, so this knucklehead and he really is a knucklehead, Daryl Allen Katz. And he's associated with the Oilers Entertainment Group. He's associated with partnership with Joel Silver to create Silver Pictures Entertainment. Again, a lot of social messaging delivery platforms here. Rogers Place in Edmonton Ice District, formerly known as the Arena District. Of course, he's thrown some money at charity, which are money laundering facilities, in my opinion. Anyway, he's selling the Art Linkletter vacant lot, if you're interested, for $38.5 million. Now, what that means is it's going to be purchased by the military industrial complex, and then they're going to build a new mansion there. So he's just sort of what you call a provisional owner of a vacant property at 1100 Bel Air Road, across the street from where Zsa Zsa Gabor, Hungarian Jewish girl, used to live. All right, so moving our way down the hillside, about a third of a mile, we come to 924 Bel Air Road. Okay, and there was a fellow by the name of Bruce McCoskey, an American real estate developer and entrepreneur. We don't know much about him. He's approximately 66 years old. So apparently he built this monstrosity contemporary home, and he put it on the market for $250 million. Looks directly out at the Sharon Tate murder scene, or at the Abigail Folger murder scene. It's actually, of all the homes, I would say that the Art Linkletter home and the Bruce Makowski 924 home are the premium home to view the murder scene. There's over 15 homes that look out at the murder scene, but these are particularly excellent ones. And anyway, no one purchased it for $250 million. So a Jewish gentleman by the name of Charles S. Cohen stood up, and he bought it for $94 million. But he borrowed $58 million of that $94 million from HSBC Bank. That's Hong Kong Shanghai Bank, under the name of Winter Sun Properties. So you see money laundering every aspect of this. You have a Jewish gentleman who is kind of the David Shanoff was to Joseph P. Kennedy when they purchased RKO Radio Pictures. The Jewish gentleman, executive from RCA Marconi Wireless Company, David Sharnoff, he was to Joe Kennedy what Charles S. Cohen is to Bruce Makowski, is that he's entering the picture with financial money from Hong Kong Shanghai Bank and another wad of money from another source. And he purchases this 924 monstrosity house. Please Google it. It's a multi-level home with a subterranean garage. And but he doesn't move into it. No, because he's not going to live in this house. He immediately signs a lease with Saudi Arabian Fawaz Al-Okar Group, Fawaz Al-Okar, and he's not going to live in the house either. He's going to assign it to his personnel executive vice president of human resources. A fellow by the name of Karsten Arms is the tenant of this 30,000 square foot home. I don't have a square footage on it, but Fadwa Alakar, he lives in at 432 Park Avenue. He paid $88 million for a penthouse apartment at 432 Park Avenue. You should know that that's 2 blocks away from where Thomas H. Lee was murdered last Thursday last, on February 23rd, 2023. A billionaire private banker was murdered 2 blocks from where Fawaz Alakar resides at 432 Park Avenue, Manhattan, New York. Anyway, he's the one paying the rent to the Jewish gentleman Charles S. Cohen so that Karsten Arms can live in this monstrosity home, which has got to be at least 25,000 square foot home, looking on to the Sharon Tate murder scene. All right? I can go on and on and on. Let's move down the hill another third of a mile, and you come to the Beverly Hillbillies mansion, which is my favorite. It is known as the Chartwell Mansion. That home is on 10 acres of property. The Art Linkletter home is 4.6 acres. You can have that 4.6 acres for $38.5 million, but you have to be associated with the clandestine services. And the Beverly Hills home is on 10 acres of land, 750 Bel Air. It was designed in the 1930s. And let me tell you about that a little bit, because it's a television show I watched. They only used a small amount of the mansion for the Jed Clampett Beverly Hillbillies. But that was designed by Summer Spalding in the 1930s. And it had 18 bedrooms and 25 bathrooms. Jerry Lewis, he filmed Cinderfella in 1960 on the property. The Beverly Hillbillies rented the property from 1962 until 1971. They paid $500 per day rent. So what does that work out to, right? So that's $15,000 a month to rent that property back in 1962. Today, it's been remodeled, of course, for Lachlan Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch's son, who's age 51. They bought the home when he was 48 years old. They paid $150 million. You should know that Lachlan Murdoch went to Princeton University. He's married to Sarah his wife is Sarah O'Hare. It's funny, I write it down and I can't find it. Yeah, Sarah O'Hare. And she is not Jewish. And Lachlan Murdoch is rumored to be Jewish. The Rupert Murdoch is rumored to be Jewish. You should know that Fox, of course, is a Jewish company, so it's hard to imagine that you could be a 40% owner of a Jewish company and not be Jewish, because you do know that Fox was created in 1915 by a Hungarian Jew by the name of William Fox, not his real name. His real name was Wilhelm Fried Fuchs. I'm not kidding, Fox, F-U-C-H-X. A Hungarian Jew formed Fox Film Corporation and Fox West Coast Theaters in 1930s. It later became known as 20th Century Fox, and today it's Fox News, the Fox Channel. It goes under many names, and it's, I believe, 40% owned by Rupert Murdoch, who's the chairman, and the CEO of Fox is his son, who is now 51 years old, Lachlan, and he's living in the Beverly Hills mansion, which goes by the name of Chartwell. Today it has a 40-car garage, subterranean, underground garage. It has a wine cellar that can hold 12,000 bottles of wine. It has a tennis court. It has fountains. It has a 75-foot swimming pool, which the Clampetts referred to as the cement pond. And you do know that Sharon Tate appeared in the Beverly Hillbillies and appeared at the cement pond. She was an assistant secretary by the name of Janet Trigo for Miss Jane, who was Milburn Drysdale's executive assistant. And Janet Trigo, which was the Sharon Tate with a raven-colored black wig, she appeared on that property at 750 Bel Air Road, and in the background was the murder site where she would be bayoneted 16 times with a NATO M7 military sword. That is prophetic, is it not? And so I'm going to call all of these homes the 1100 Bel Air Road Art Linkletter home, which is owned by Daryl Katz, a Jewish man from Canada. I'm going to call the 924 Bel Air Road, owned by Charles S. Cohen, a Jewish man who doesn't live on the property, who's renting to a Saudi national, who lives 2 blocks from where Thomas H. Lee was murdered a few days ago, 6 days ago. And I'm going to call the Lachlan Murdoch estate at 750 Bel Air Road. I'm going to call that cult ritual housing, because all those three homes, those three mansions, they look over onto where Sharon Tate was murdered. And one of the homes is where the Rupert Murdoch son's home, Lachlan, she actually spent time on the property. Sharon Tate spent time where Sarah and Lachlan Murdoch have lived for the last 2 years. They bought the property on December 13th, 2019, where the Jed Clampett family resided. And Milburn Drysdale was over there all the time. And then we have the focal point of those three homes, which of course is the Bella Drive, Cielo Drive, Sunbrook Drive murder scene for Abigail Folger, Wojtek Frykowski, Tom Coomer, Jay Sebring, Stephen Parent, and of course the beguiling Sharon Tate. That property was reported to be 3.3 acres of land. That parcel is 3.3 acres. It's only half usable because it's on a steep hillside, so it's more like 1.5 acres of usable terrace. And you know, when Sharon Tate was murdered on that property, it was a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bath house. It was 3,300 square feet. It had a swimming pool, one swimming pool. It had a pool house, 2,000 square feet with 2 full baths. They were level-in homes, single level. That home was destroyed and demolished around 1994-95, and it was rebuilt and came online in 1996. And now it has 9 bedrooms. It is 21,000 square feet. It is now 2 levels with an underground subterranean garage. I think there's 5 swimming pools instead of 1. So we went from 1 pool to 5 pools. We went from 5 bedrooms to 9 bedrooms. We went from 5,300 square feet of usable space to 21,000 square feet of usable space. We went from a 1-level, 2 homes, to a 2-level mega mansion. And the Doppelganger Evil Twin home, which is 150 feet down the hillside at 10048, that also was destroyed. Now the zero lot line home was built there. I think that's more like 11,000 square feet. It's not 21,000 square feet. So I don't have a square footage on the Lachlan and Sarah Murdoch home. I'm going to guess that's 25,000 square feet. I don't have square footage for the 924. I'm going to assume that's 25,000, 30,000 square feet, where Karsten Arms is living, the human resource officer for Saudi Arabian Fawzwa Al-Akar, owned by Charles S. Cohen, the Jewish gentleman who arranged the financing with help of Hong Kong Shanghai Bank. And Daryl Katz, he's looking to sell his lot for $38.5 million. Anyway, I thought you'd get a kick out of that. That's some minutia for you. You know, I can go on and on about minutia, but you can put that in your pipe and smoke it. So you know that Fox was, originally started by this Hungarian Jewish gentleman, William Fox, and that Zsa Zsa Gabor was Hungarian Jewish, and she lived across the street from Art Linkletter. And you should also know that Ronald and Nancy Reagan lived adjacent to the 750 Lachlan Murdoch home. It's been consolidated into it. In other words, they tore down the house that Ronald and Nancy Reagan lived in, and it became part of the parcel of 750 Bel Air Road. Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan were relocated to 666 St. Cloud Road, which is a third of a mile down the hill and around the corner. It does not have a view of the Sharon Tate murder scene, but it has a Masonic 666, right? All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the like and subscribe if you like this type of content. Have a great day. Bye-bye.